Hello. Hey, I can hear us this time.
I can hear you. I can hear me.
We had some trouble with these last week. Oh, Sarah's lighting a candle.
Love it.
Sarah's done a couple things today that she's never done.
Really?
For another
like
guest.
What?
Well,
lighting a candle,
offering tea. I don't know if that's because you're British or something, but
it's
maybe.
It's the British infiltration.
Yeah, she's never lit a candle.
I feel very special right now. I do.
I did. Yep, that's right. It's just for you. I'm not going to then tell her she's wrong.
Yes, thank you. Now let's just leave it there. The next subject.
It is. Yeah. It's because
I feel
you.
special.
Welcome everybody to
the
next episode of the Momcult Podcast.
I'm Sarah Parker Massey.
I'm Joy Todd.
And our guest today. Oh, that went well.
It did. It felt really good. It felt really
I
good.
interrupted
Really
your
professional.
mind,
Did you?
I'll shut up for a second until I'm addressed.
You didn't at all.
I didn't hear it.
No, this is so far been perfect. Don't call it anything less than. But we don't have to be perfect. Here we are. Okay. Our guest today is a British singer-songwriter. I didn't send you this. I normally do that. So
It's okay.
Sorry if this is wrong.
It'll be fine.
I do always disclaim it though. She sold 2 million albums in Europe.
Meh.
And casually, and she's worked with the likes of Miranda Lambert, Little Big Town, Chris Stapleton, Brandi Carlile, Sheryl Crow, just to name a few. Her accent is so fun. She's got the biggest heart. Her voice is astounding, and that it comes out of such a tiny person is the most fun juxtaposition. Okay. She's just one of those people that's infinitely, effortlessly likable, and she got us all the info that we needed within like an hour of us sending the email, even though she's really busy. And she's a mom of twins named Arthur and Maybelle. Do they still have strawberry blonde or red, just straight up red hair?
Arthur has red hair. This is so sweet, by the way. Thank you. I feel I'm like shrinking because when I get a compliment, I don't know what to do because I'm British. Maybelle's our little strawberry shortcake, and Arthur is our ginger nut biscuit.
She's got a beautiful story of her path to motherhood, and her husband is also an angel on earth who can shred, but this isn't about him. So welcome to Momcult.
Yeah, thank you. It's not his time.
Lucie Silvas.
Lucie
Thank
Silvas,
you.
welcome.
Thanks for having me. That was such a sweet.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Are you out of the having new twins fog yet, or do you still feel like?
Well, I don't know if I'll ever be out of it unless they're kind of doing adult things the same as me, at which point I'll just be marveling at where they came from and how they exist, which I do now. I don't know. I feel like I at one point after having them, maybe it was a 6-month or 8-month mark, I was like, okay, soon I'll find my balance. I'll find my compass. And now I've given up on that. I've just gone, that will not happen. It's fine. Just don't have to white knuckle it, even though I feel like I am a lot of the time. But I can I can not know where I am and just try and be present with them. That's what I've accepted because I don't know how to really approach it any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the truth of it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's the biggest thing I find I'm dealing with is my memory. I'm literally... I've always had a very good memory, and this is either old age, cognitive decline, or it's the motherhood thing. I can't. Going into a room gives me more social anxiety than it did before because I don't know if I've met someone before, which I definitely get awkward sometimes anyway, but this is another level. It's like, oh, wow, I've forgotten things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really bizarre.
I also am like, I think we've talked about it on here before, but so many more women now are having children while they're probably entering perimenopause or getting close to entering perimenopause. And just what does that mean? What does that look like? I know that means estrogen levels shift, brain fog enters. There's all sorts of side effects. So yeah, it's hard to determine like what's my body doing? What do I have control of? What?
Oh yeah, what's for what reason? Yeah, you're like, what was I thinking? But obviously, I think. Even a friend of mine, me and Erin McCarley were talking about it. She's like, "What? We got kids in our 40s with our parents getting older, and and mine are thousands of miles away in New Zealand. So, but I think there are plus sides. Obviously, there's downsides and upsides to everything. So, 45 and having twins, we'd been trying since I was about 38. And even then, I took for granted the fact that my sisters had babies at 39 and 41. So I thought, oh yeah, they're my sisters. I'll be okay. Yeah. And that definitely wasn't the case. But there are upsides because now I just don't care what I miss. I just want to be with them. Yeah. Whereas in my 20s, I can't imagine you'd have major FOMO, even though, of course, you want to be the truth. I've seen my friends go through that and have not knowing if they're going to miss a lot of what they wanted to accomplish. But then also being 45 and have your kids grown up and out is a huge plus. Yeah. So there's always going to be those things to grapple with.
Yeah, for sure.
And I haven't read the article in a long time, but you know how, or have you heard the thing about I don't know if it's you lose brain cells or what, like your some of that goes to the actual like making of the kid's brain,
right?
You know, and I notice that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I have many to give them to begin with. So I'd be like, I think you've got your father's brain cells. Good luck. Good luck with all of it. Yeah. And what's amazing to me is, you give them so much of your body and yet you feel, I don't know, my personal experience, I thought I'd have an awful pregnancy. I thought it would be, I'm 45.
Because of twins or
my age,
no matter what.
Twins, IVF, all the hormonal changes. How am I going to deal with this? I'm 5'1", and my husband's 6'4". So what size
what
are
size
these babies going to be whilst in there? And I didn't have an awful pregnancy. I felt better than I'd ever felt in my life.
Wow.
I also. And that's not to say, oh, good for her. She felt great. Some people have such awful pregnancies, so I feel such empathy. I mean, I got nausea and I got all this stuff. But from on an emotional level, when you find it hard to take care of yourself, and maybe I've been a natural sort of caretaker, so there was precious cargo in there. So I felt like I had a lot of self-empathy and compassion and self-love at that time. As soon as they come out, you're like, oh, what I love is over there. Right. It's not in here. So then you have to learn to take care of yourself and love yourself all over again. But while they were in there, I felt it glowed out of me because I felt so much care for my own body because they were in there.
And just
so it was the best time.
Settled in, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm okay. Like, this is what I want to be doing right now.
Yeah.
And going into it with trying for so long. It seems like you really stayed present through most of your pregnancy, or even just in a grateful
I was very grateful
to just even be finally there.
Oh, yeah. I was incredibly grateful. I couldn't believe it. And there was an element of fear until the whole way along, really. I would have had my friend Anna in the UK had one ultrasound. She had a birth at home in a pool. I don't know how she did what she did, but I was like, mine is not going to be like that. I will be in a hospital and I will have nurses and doctors around me every week. And I was just like, I don't, trust anything else. And that's just the way I'm built or whatever. And I grew up, with my mum working for doctors. So I was always around that medical environment. But I would have had an ultrasound every week if they'd let me. I had gestational diabetes, so I was like...
I did too with both.
You did?
Yeah.
And it was actually a good reason to cut out sugar because I'm such a chocolate monster. I was like, I eat a ton of sugar, too much. And so it was controlled by diet, but it is scary when you first hear about it because you're like, what's going to happen to the babies? What's if I don't get this right? But I had ultrasounds. I was like, is everything all right? Is everything all right? So I was definitely anxious during it, but so happy and just couldn't believe it. I was like, I never thought I'd be pregnant. Never, ever thought I would be, especially not with twins.
Did you guys hit a point where you were about to maybe stop trying? Did you have like I think we can do this many more. I have this many more.
Yes.
Not chances, but I don't know. What's the word I'm thinking
of?
Well,
opportunities, but also if you go through IVF, there's the financial implications. Actually, in the UK, I heard that you get one round covered by the NHS, which is unbelievable. I think. I have to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure that's what someone told me, which is incredible. At least one shot instead of no shot. And it's incredibly expensive, and you're taking a chance each time. And after the third time, I mean, one was cancelled halfway through because nothing was happening. And then the third time there was some hope. And then it didn't happen. And it was just absolutely soul destroying. I remember being in the, ultrasound, room, and you're having an internal ultrasound, which is not fun to begin with. Mm-mm. And John's outside, and I just texted him, can you come in here? Because you could see by the nurse's face that it was just not happening. So it's like, it is just, I didn't know much about IVF. Sarah, I know you're so good at research, and I'm terrible at research. So I did not research enough. And I think there's a fear of knowing too much about a process and then starting to get afraid. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, you know what? I'm 37, nearly 38. This was back then. I've never been pregnant, and I'm not getting pregnant. So let's just do this. I trust the doctor. Let's go. And man, what it did to my body over that period of years. And 2020 was obviously a dud. We didn't do anything. And at that time, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's just obviously not meant for us and all this kind of stuff. And then we decided to go to a different clinic. So we asked some friends what they did. And they sent us to a clinic in California. And we had a very different experience. Yeah. But maybe psychologically, when you're going somewhere else and you meet a new doctor and you see it, and he said the sweetest, just to jump forward, when I actually got pregnant, and then we found out it was twins, he did put 2 embryos in. We had 2 embryos, which was amazing to put in, which had never happened. We'd never got close to that point before. And I said, is there anything extra I should do? Is there like supplement? I was like, what do I do? It's like double in there.
How do I help?
What's happened? And he just stopped for a second. He was like, Lucy, there is nothing wrong with your body. And he said, you will healthily carry these babies. It doesn't matter that you're 45. You can carry these babies and you're just fine. And I remember just being so touched by his reading of the subtext of what I was feeling.
What you needed to hear.
What I needed to hear, and reassuring me that I'm not a broken body. I'm not broken psychologically, that this is like, hey, this is happening. This was always able to happen. And I'm fortunate because for some people that is just, they've exhausted all options.
That speaking confidence into you in that moment is like so powerful.
It really is. Like how that just, humans are wonderful. They can be wonderful, and they can read situations and know how to deal with people in such a variety of situations that it's kind of mind-blowing. It's like he'd known our story before, but just from me just going, is there anything I should be doing? I didn't say it in a panicked way.
Yeah.
He was just like, you're here doing IVF because you've had some setbacks, you know, so yeah.
How long did that process take, that part of it? Like the part where it worked?
It worked. So we basically had the embryo at the point where, you get the eggs, then they fertilize. Because you know how there's so many steps to IVF. There's injecting yourself to create the eggs. Then there's, do we have the eggs to retrieve? Then you have to fertilize them. And then you have to end up with a healthy embryo that gets genetically tested. That's another step that we decided to do because we were worried about my age and worried about lots of factors, and thought, okay, let's just give ourselves the best shot to have a healthy pregnancy. And between the embryos being tested, it was about another 3 months to wait. So time's going by and your body clock is still ticking. And then I went to California and I stayed with a couple of friends of mine who I think are just pretty much largely responsible for this working. They took care of me. My parents had flown in from New Zealand. Our friends created such a tranquil environment. And it was so many funny stories surrounding it, but it was just a funny time in my life, and that's what made it so relaxed. Went and did the embryo transfer. I remember I had to drink like loads of water on the way there, and I needed the toilet so badly, and they were like, you can't pee. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, if you put the embryos, I'm just going to pee them out, like if you don't let me pee now. So it was to, anyone that's been through this or been through a hospital experience or clinic experience in any way, shape or form, is that it's just incredibly uncomfortable and just awkward. Yeah. So, but he was talking me through it. Here, I'm putting the embryos in. You can watch it on the screen. And I'm always giving that clueless response. Like, are they in the right place? Are they gonna, and, and then, 2 weeks later you go and have the blood test and they said, you are pregnant. I was like, oh my God, I was just in floods of tears. Just couldn't believe it. And, people say stuff about manifesting, about you must think positively. You must think, I did not do that because I was scared. I was just negative not negative. I was afraid because of past experience. So I just hoped, there's a small piece of hope. And then a few weeks after that, because I can't remember the levels that you test that show the hormone level.
Not HCG.
Yes.
Is it that? Okay.
HCG levels.
I think that's
something
right.
Like that.
I got the letters wrong. I've not done. Yeah.
So to see what the levels are, they were very high. They'd quadrupled in a couple of weeks. So they were
healthy.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe both these embryos took, and it was boy and girl embryos. We knew the gender already, which is kind of mind-blowing. It's fascinating and amazing. And then she said, hey, how many embryos do you put in? And then immediately we knew that both embryos had taken and we had twins. And it was just the greatest moment of our lives. And I think it's just, it's fascinating.
Joy.
Sarah.
Parker started using a booster seat.
Big moves.
Yeah. And his legs sit slanted down. So I put this breakfast box with his eggs and like Cheerios and stuff in it in his lap on the way to school, which is teaching him terrible habits. But I digress. It spilled on the floor. And I tried to clean it up with my at-home like handheld vacuum. And I was just like, I was never a person before we both worked at Camel Express in marketing department. I was never a person who washed my car, and I didn't understand really the value of it. But the vacuums at Camel Express are bananas. And really
for car seat grossness.
Yeah.
And like when you take the car seat off and move it and all the stuff underneath and inside. Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
At each of the vacuum bays, we have glass cleaner infused microfiber towels that you can wipe up that stuff that is underneath the seat.
Or inside the cup holder.
Right. And in about, I don't know, in 2.5 minutes you can go through the whole wash. And then in 5 minutes, because of the power of the vacuums at any of the 5 locations in and around Nashville, you can really like clean your whole car to the level that I'm accustomed. I see some people there like really doing it.
But it's like their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. I support it. Good job. So if you, Momcult listener, would like to get your first wash at Camel Express for free, just text code MOMCULT to 22322 and we'll send you a free wash on us.
And we have a deal going that you can get any unlimited plan for $9.99 for the first month.
For sure, take advantage of that $9.99 deal. If you're not already a member, then do that because it's literally...
you could get like the best wash that they offer for a whole month and then just cancel if you want for $10.
I'm not supposed to say that, but yeah, you can.
They've already stopped listening. They've fast forwarded through this whole ad.
Oh, God.
IVF is a very precious commodity. I do wish that there were ways to help people pay for it because it's insanely expensive and it put us through the mill for years. But I'm just praying that IVF sticks around because my twins wouldn't be here otherwise.
What do you mean? Is there like some concern of it leaving? Like
there's a lot of, not to go down the political rabbit hole, but with all the stuff that's being discussed about abortion, about all this kind of stuff, IVF is kind of on the chopping block with some, campaigns because you can, when it gets to embryo level, they don't want you to destroy embryos. And of course, no one actually wants to do that. No one wants to destroy anything, really. It's just that it's all situational and people have very differing opinions on it. But it doesn't make sense to me because you want to allow babies to be born. But with IVF going away, you would literally stop 10 million babies being born through IVF. Since it started, so it
there's just
doesn't
such
make
a
sense
lack
to
of
me.
creativity in a lot of those choices. Like it's like let's figure out a different thing. What was I going to say? About research. Speaking of that, and that is something I don't know if I maybe good at it, but it's just like that's also like a fear response for me, is to look for the most information and comfort myself in that way. And that's something that I've always done and just has been part of, I don't know how I did stuff. And it's not totally gone, but I will say, since I've become a mom, one of the things that I've learned is that I don't always have to do that. Like pretty recently, I focus on trusting without understanding. Just that is so helpful for a person with my brain. Like we were talking about schools just before. And I started like talking really fast and I have all this information and I had already found all that stuff before today. So I'd already done that like spinning thing that I do. And to bring it back to the point related to what you were saying, which is, in terms of political stuff, I find I read the first thing and then my heart starts pounding. I start feeling
Switch
anxious.
off.
I just, at all the things. Like I'm just terrified. So I don't know why I'm saying that. I guess
but it is
somebody's
terrifying.
like, well, that's like top line stuff that they're getting rid of that.
You have a kid, you're an intellect, you're a very smart person and you feel everything. You're an empath. So it's like you feel everything around you. So, you're trying to bring up a kid in this world. And whilst we don't want to be, it makes you feel like you're being ignorant to what's going on. But that the fact of the matter is you're trying to live a positive life and just create your little corner of the world. We can contribute in ways we can contribute. But when it comes to politics or all that stuff, what kind of environment are we trying to create around kids when we're struggling to deal with it? How do we expect them to be in an environment where we're stressed by the news all the time? I mean, genuinely, whether people judge this or not, I didn't look at the news for a year. I couldn't.
Oh, totally.
It brought me the worst anxiety. I was like, I had to have people fill me in on things every so often. And when I'd look at it, I'd be so afraid for, just the world in general and my kids. So,
I guess we're staying on politics, but I'll just say this and we can cut it out if this gets to be too much, whatever.
That's all right.
But I feel like at this point, something's shifted. One of the points seems to be to scare, and they're capitalizing on if there are sides, and every situation seems to be capitalizing on our ability to be controlled by fear.
Absolutely.
And I don't like that.
No one wants to subscribe to it unless, and that's the thing. It's divide and conquer. So it's the best way for people to do that is to keep us fighting and more passionate about our belief system and whatever point of view we're coming from. So if we were all sitting at one big global table and getting along, they'd be like, wait, what do we do with this?
Yeah, that's scary.
We can't use this topic to get that group to follow us. This isn't going to work, and that's politics. So it's tough to watch, and with the internet, it's just far more polarizing these days with everything. And that's another thing about anything to do with the world in general, but motherhood, IVF, pregnancy, childcare, any component of it, single parenting, family, all that stuff. The internet can help and hinder you 100%.
Yes.
And it is just like an influx of crazy information. And it's something we need to be really careful of. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We usually record pretty far apart, but we just a couple of days ago recorded, just worked out that way. But my point is that I'll say that every time.
No, I'm the same.
You're really good at this,
I have a lot of thoughts in my head.
I feel like you've given a lot of these, and it's so good.
Oh no.
We were talking about, that exact thing, social media, and how like the information that moms are fed. I still fall prey to that pretty often. Probably Eric would probably say every day, because I send him something almost every day. However, the amount that I block it, and also the amount that I even get on Instagram is like, I don't know, 3% of what it was, keeping that out, and also just filtering. It's hard because if I see something, they know what I want to see. Their intent's probably not terrible, but they're saying something that's just provocative, because that's how that works.
I know how to get you. Yeah.
Oh my God. And then I read it, and it doesn't matter if I believe it or not. I've heard it.
It's in the it's in the hard drive,
which is similar to the thing about news. And what I think is, so I try to just cull it down to, I can't go through any 10 minutes of this podcast without talking about Dr. Becky. I try to just keep it just to her.
Yeah.
And then occasionally something outside of that, whatever. And
yeah.
Then,
it's like management of like intake of things. And I've realized so much about, being a newish mom at this point. It's like time management and emotional management of like, what can I take it, knowing what kind of person I am, knowing how sensitive I can be, what do I have the capacity for, and really think about what's best for you. And it might look completely different to you a year ago or whenever it was you didn't have kids. So that's the other thing I'm trying to just be cognizant of, because the other issue I've had in my own life is I'm really bad at self-diagnosis. I'm like, I could have a headache and be like, well, you didn't drink enough water today, and I won't know it's for that reason. I don't connect dots well. I don't know what that is. It's just a spacey part of my personality, or that I'm too worried about the next thing, so I'm not looking back on the dots of the day and how they've connected. But I think to really notice things around you, write them down or acknowledge them and then move on. Because then I got to the stage of acknowledging them and then ruminating on them for days and weeks and being like, so it's just, I don't know, the kids are a godsend because they teach you how to, number one, be present, and number two, stop thinking so much about total nonsense. There's not time enough for that. So time management becomes somewhat easier in some ways when it comes to your own, I don't know, things we do to our detriment when we're not mothers, Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. That's tricky. So central to like what I think about so much, giving love to your kid by recognizing that you just don't have the space for anything all the else. Shit. You just have to say no. And he's 5 now. And I still, that's what I'm having trouble putting words to, because I started thinking that immediately. Like the minute that he came out, I was like, wow, okay, I'm not sleeping. And this is all of those things that happened then and how that time management works. But now I'm at this different phase where I'm like, just cutting out even more stuff. And anyway, that was just
really important.
So true.
It's important to know that. And I wish my best friend in England, her kid's nearly 21. So she's had it the whole time I've known her has been as a mother. The whole time she's known me has been not as a mother. So now she's trying to relate to me as a mother, and I'm back at the beginning where she was 21 years ago, which is crazy. And I spent all that time, I rang her saying, how did it feel to have a friend for 20 years that didn't understand anything about your life? And she goes, well, you did understand some things. I was like, but the main thing, I couldn't relate. Like, did that make you feel disconnected from me? Did that make you feel... She goes, well, in that way, it was a subject that we couldn't necessarily broach. You were helpful when it came to seeing it from an outside perspective. But when it comes to how it actually feels, I couldn't be there for her in that way. And actually the bubble that you're in, like you said, when your baby first comes out, and you're just like, I don't know what's going on outside of this room or this hospital room, or I don't really care either. And you're in your bubble with your family or whatever situation you're in, and I'm not out of it yet. And when I'm trying to navigate all the things I did before, and the truth, I just don't have the capacity. And I grew up very much a people pleaser and being taught that accommodating people was the polite, right thing to do at all times, and put yourself last because that's what is not selfish. And now I'm kind of going, well, now I'm irritating everybody around me. I'm upsetting at least one person a week because I can't do the things. And obviously the closest friends don't expect that. And maybe that isn't even their expectation. That's just mine. And I'm thinking things that I shouldn't be thinking. But it really is, I'm focused in on being a mom and being there for them and them as personalities and these people, that music, which was my entire identity up until now, has a very small space in my head, which is alien to me. But that's just how it is. It just doesn't have much space.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's weird.
It is. And I relate to that in that, I work but what I do now in-house for a chain of car washes, doing graphic design and branding and all that stuff is completely different in that there's creativity, but there's like spurts of it. I don't like that word. There are little bursts. I don't like that by itself. Nothing by itself. There are little parts of
nothing
it that are like really creative, but a lot of it is like admin stuff. The point is the amount that creativity in the way that it used to exist in my mind exists there is so different and so small, like you're saying. And then I apply that brain to what I need to for us or for Parker. And also then, okay, this is not a left turn, but just like a swerve that I realize, or sometimes I don't apply the creativity to things and then I recognize it later. Like play can be really hard for me, like getting on the floor and playing with them. But that is weird because I've been that aunt, like 100% with every kid I've ever been around. That makes sense to me. Like I know how to, like, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And because I get in my head about, I don't know, the lunch and
you've got a lot of things to think about.
Helping him write or his, all that stuff that we do as the mom.
Of course.
The play part is different. So
you're detached from your being an aunt. You're literally coming in like the family jester, clown, coming in literally. And going, yes, I've got literally nothing else to worry about in this situation than playing right now.
Yeah.
So of course, you and your mum, you think, should I get their water? Shall I go? And you end up being not present because you're thinking about multiple things you need to do for them.
Yeah.
So, and it's tricky, and it's okay to kind of give yourself. No one in history has ever done everything they wanted to do in any given moment.
All the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
But the like coming into different levels thing, I think I'm finding, I don't know, I'm just placing importance on that. So
yeah, and maybe that's good to do that, to recognize whatever you want to do differently. That's fine for whatever you think your kid or you need or that environment needs. But at the end of the day, going to bed going, I love this child. I accept this child and they've got a roof over their head. And I love them. Even my father-in-law, it stuck with me. It's such a simple sentence, because I'm married to his son, obviously, and I'm very close to all the children, John's siblings. And I look at them and I'm like, they've all been through their fair share of ups and downs, and they, their childhood was full of lots of color and adventure and changes and tough stuff and all that kind of stuff. But they are very loved and accepted. And so I'm very impacted by that. So, Papa John said to me, you just got to love them. You've just got to love them. And that is so simple. And we go around going, how can I be an emotionally supportive parent that helps them with this scenario? Like, how can I be the cool, fun person they want to talk to and not ignore when they're 25? It's like, instead of just going, my job is to stand here and love you.
Yeah.
It's like, is that hard in some respects? I'm sure it's going to be in certain scenarios whatever they do. But that's the most simple way to look at it. And there are things that my parents, I'm very lucky with my parents. There's some things that I wish I had known early that they would have taught me, but I learned them in other ways later. They did a great job and they did the best they could. So, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I just need to go down the road of reparenting. That's like a whole other.
Oh, there's so many dynamics at play here when you look at the way you were brought up. And there's so much judgment involved on yourself and on them than your parents going. And also what I figured out is even times where I'd say to my mother-in-law would say something and I'd be like, well, no, you can't do it like that. And she would then come back with, no, you must do it like this. And I remember thinking, she's not telling me I'm doing it wrong. She's thinking, did I do it wrong 30 years ago? Which is a question for them to go. But I was like, no, you didn't do it wrong. You did it whatever was told to you at the time. We're going to find out in 20 years' time. Don't put them in the crib like that. It's like, don't put them in a crib. Have them suspended from the ceiling in a cloud of, I don't know. It's really confusing. And I think that we're judging every move that we make and that our parents made because it's applicable, but And I don't know what the answer is. Like, who knows? Like, how can you possibly cover it all?
No, we can't.
It's impossible.
Yeah. But here's just a positive like edge of that, or some thought that this just happened today. I won't tell like the whole story or like edges of this, but the point is, the takeaway is that there's this thing that my parents did with me when I was growing up that I was always like, that I've just made a joke about, that I always thought was an issue. And it was one of the things where I'm like, well, that was not healthy because of this and this and this. And then just today I thought of a reason why that was like a wonderful thing that I'm grateful for out of nowhere. Just thought of it.
Wow.
And I know that that's vague, but it's just a true thing. Like, and I was
that's amazing.
Really internalized that. And I was like, 100%, I'm so grateful that they did that. And, that happens. And I'm just saying that happens. I don't really have a point.
No, I think it resonates what you're saying, because you suddenly realize a lot of things. The older you get, you realize what they were trying to do, them as people, your parents as people. I'm going to have all this stuff. Like the times when I've just hit back at my parents or been difficult or not understood anything, or we're all just human individuals trying to find our way through the world. And it's complicated. It's incredibly complicated. And for you to suddenly wake up one day and realize something, that's, in my mind, that's realizing something about yourself. And you go, oh, I've changed my point of view on this. I think that's amazing. We're just, while we're alive, we're growing and changing. So it's just part of it. Yeah.
You should have a podcast.
Oh, no, believe me. No. Every thought. I love, your brain is fascinating, because I know you think a thought and then you react to it, because I'm the same way, but I internally react as well. Like John says things so simply, and I come out with 9 sentences for his every half a sentence, because I'm explaining the previous sentence and preempting the following sentence. So totally. He's like, your life can be simpler if you want it to. And I'm like, well, I'm a girl and you're a boy, so...
There's that.
Shut up.
Which, by the way, I have. Well, I guess you have both, which is so crazy, because it's such a crazy. It's such a crazy experience to have just the one that's not your same gender, and then recognizing. I say this a lot, but I've always thought, oh, I'm like a guy's girl. Like I always thought that I'm a tomboy. I get like dudes' brains. Like I just get it. I get how y'all think. I don't understand it. I don't know why they're like they are. And it's nothing like mine. It's completely different. I appreciate women even more in a different way. It's wild how different they are.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm just like, nope. I try and have compassion for the way a man's brain works, but I don't know what's going on in there. I will never know, and that's and neither will he, and that needs some grace too, because it's like he's not experiencing this stuff, and neither, of course he's not. He can't. So
what is the biggest struggle for you in this time period? Is there, if there is one?
Oh God, the biggest struggle, I think, is just. God, there's so many. There's so many.
It's hard to pick just one.
So bad.
No, it doesn't.
Negative, but
it's everything that it's pretty
like,
much
how do I
point.
pinpoint one?
No, pretty much what the point of this podcast is that everything we talk about, everybody feels the same stuff in different ways, and that's
therapy.
Like all of it.
Yeah,
we
thank
all
you
feel
for the session, by the way, because this is like therapy.
Oh, great.
No, I think it's just. It's relating. It's the outside world for me. That's the struggle, because they are simple to me. They're children. When I'm with them, I feel no anxiety. When I'm in their company, I'm marveling at what they're doing. I'm so in love with them. I'm just so happy with them. As soon as I walk away from them, the anxiety starts.
That's amazing, actually. I mean, I'm sorry that you experienced that, but sorry, go ahead, finish your question.
No, I mean, I go to bed at night and my brain is just, and then I cry sometimes because I'm so scared for them, and scared when we're not going to be around one day. Like just a buffet of fears come up. And then I go, okay, there's been a lot of times in my life where I've been afraid or worried or tired. There's no better reason to have these things than the kids. So they are a good reason to feel tired and scared. So that's okay. That's good. That's living. That's all good. But that's my biggest struggle, is one specific thing is I have very bad intrusive thoughts. And this is something that I had before the kids. It was to do with animals and babies and small children. So it would be my nephews and my nieces, any animal, anything, any innocent, you know, or not, we're all innocent too, but I mean, helpless. That's the right word. So, and I've watched too many movies. So these movie scenes where something terrible happens come in and I am physically jolted by it. Yeah. I'll be sitting in the car and John went, what just happened? You just jumped because I had a bad thought, and it could be something awful and ridiculous. And I had therapy over it, and I still have therapy over it, because I'm like, I mean, we come out of our bedroom in our house and there's stairs and there's a balcony that looks to the living room. And every day I think about my child jumping out of my arms over the balcony and smashing into pieces on the floor. And it's so horrible. I'm sorry for the image.
No.
But this is the image in my head. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It's not rational. But how do I stop it? And I'm like, is this an OCD thing? What part of this is? And like I said, it was there before the kids were here. So now it's, John has struggled with intrusive thoughts in other ways. And it is horrible. And I'm like, the therapy helped in that she said, well, there are ridiculous things that are good that could happen too. These are unrealistic things that aren't going to happen. I'm like, yes, but if I trip on the stairs, every time I go down the stairs, I'm like, I'm picturing me falling and my baby going flying. And then I've got two in my arms sometimes.
I have those.
Really?
But they're like fleeting.
Right.
Like they come in and I'm like, oh, that was fucked up to think about. And then I like, go on your merry way.
Are you affected by it after the?
It depends how detailed I picture it in my head, and if it's detailed enough, then I can feel it in my body. Like if you imagine, I don't know.
Yeah, no, we know. I think we both get, because I have the exact same thing. Yeah.
So it just depends how much time is given to that thought.
But, and then the aftershock of it is dependent on how long. Okay. You mentioned seeing things in movies. Well, you mentioned that I'm an empath. That is true, and I think the energy that we absorb from like media in general, we were talking about news and all of that. It's just vital. And I don't want to say for certain people, you do whatever you want, listener, but if that stuff stays with you, and I'm one of those people, I will go and absorb the kind of content that I feel like I need to absorb, because watching something means that you're doing something good for the group that you're watching it about, or the person, or whatever it is, like whatever thing. Am I making sense?
You are.
I'm trying not to talk about pedophilia documentaries for the 15th time in a row. But
no, my brain went to Dateline and all sorts when you were looking at murder cases, and you're like, why are people so fascinated by crime in general? Yeah. But if it goes anywhere near a child, you're just like, forget it. Do not. And
so you don't watch that kind of stuff. The stuff that you're talking about, media. I was going to encourage you to stop if you were doing that. No,
I can't watch it.
Great,
but I'm talking about like movies, even like that I would watch with no problem before, thrillers that would induce anxiety. I mean, I loved horror movies growing up. I loved scary movies. I loved being scared. I thought it was fun. Now I do not like to be scared. Same. Is unnecessary component on top of everything else.
Like,
I'm scared
why am I doing?
The time.
I'm paying to be stressed. Why?
Something that's profound to me that I'm going to bring into my own therapy, I feel like, is that or something, I don't know, I want to find out how to do that, is that you don't feel anxiety when you're around them, because I'd say that mine amps up around him, like, and I want to. Anyway, I don't need to work it out right here.
Is it like...
Yeah, some version of that. I mean, some version of that. But it's like it manifests in... He's having a problem at school and he tells me what games they're playing, and then I want to over-explain something. And I've gotten a lot better about it, but it's still there. And I think it can get even... I have this sense... I don't know, just hearing you say that, I have the sense that it could get even better. So,
yeah, and I definitely think it depends what type of personality you have, because we know what life is like up to the point that we're at, and we just want to shield and protect, and that comes with an element of control, and relinquishing control, even in a relationship, is incredibly hard because you care about the person. I mean, I come from a family of micromanagers. Like we can't even chop a carrot without somebody going, you really shouldn't chop it that way. It's better if it's long and not in.
But I've never seen you. Are you?
Only
I'm like that. I am like that, but
I've
only
never
with
seen
them.
that.
But only, well, actually with them, my closest friends would probably tell you that as well. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a control freak in obvious way, but I am probably. It comes from a place of wanting things to go right, not just for me, but for everyone. And that often comes across as, why can't you just let it be? Why can't you just let that person be? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the kids, I'm trying really hard to go stand back. Obviously, the anxiety comes from, they're just standing on top of a slide that looks, they're going to, if I can avoid them cracking their head open, I think I will. Mm-hmm. But then there's that middle ground of going, they have to learn, kids that hurt themselves. And then there's all this research about kids that hurt themselves early will be careful later when it comes to every area of their life. But this is just another thing that you're trying to navigate, which is almost impossible. There's too many variables in this whole thing. It's like, this relates to, I find that having these kids, it's obviously teaching me so much about myself. And when I'm in my alone time, I'm thinking, like, what do I need to work on as an individual? And the control thing is one of them, because, I've actually gotten better at this. I remember saying to a parent friend of mine, do you find it easier to parent your kid alone when your partner isn't there? And they're like, I think
a lot of moms
both of us
feel that
and
way.
the dads too. Yeah. Because if John's trying to give them a bath and I'm like, I use that shampoo, or I scrub his head and her head in that way. It's like, Lucy,
you're like, just don't even watch. Just leave just walk out of the room.
He is perfectly capable. Yeah. He, which he is, and he's amazing with them. But it's just an inherent thing, and you're the mom, and it's different. It's different.
I didn't know that I knew that I knew some that I was controlling in a micro. I knew that, but nobody had really, really called it out in the way that it's like, no, this is like a thing that's like central to your whole personality, and this is a thing that you do literally constantly.
This is you entirely. God, that's probably going too far.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So I've taken huge steps forward, but that thing that you said about the bath, I whenever I feel when something's resonant, then it's almost impossible for me to not just blurt out, me too.
Oh yeah, and it makes you feel less alone in that regard. And I'm about to go on a trip for music, which is 6 days away from the babies. I've never done that before. Yeah, and John will be with them. He's perfectly capable, but I'm going to have to give him the speech of please
keep them alive while I'm gone.
And our therapy, by the way, where you can find it that's affordable, which is another whole issue. But, together, having that therapist explain what the other one means by what they're feeling and what they're saying is the biggest help on the planet. Because she said, when Lucy says to you, can you shut the baby gate? Can you put them in? I know how to look after a baby, is the response. It's like they're getting annoyed. She's not thinking you're incapable. She has anxiety.
You're not saying it for him. You're saying it for yourself. So that you said it. Yes. So that if for some reason something does happen, you can go to sleep at night going, well, I did say it.
I tried. Right. I tried to. Yeah. And you just got to let it go, because it's her anxiety. So the best way you can react is go, even if you think it's stupid and pointless and unnecessary, hey, I close the baby gate. You can even send her a photo if you want to. I mean, we've had these ridiculous scenarios happen twice, which has become a running joke. And I've had to really manage my reaction to things, because when Django, our little crazy Bernedoodle, was a puppy, we have a balcony on our bedroom that's got these little bars that were big enough for a tiny puppy to get through and go onto the roof. So I used to say to John, don't let him on the balcony. Don't let him on the balcony. He's too little. So I was like, he'll get on the roof and then fall off the roof and into the pool. All this, another intrusive
worst
thought.
Case scenario.
Worst case, he's going to splatter on the pavement. Whatever's the worst image you could possibly imagine. And John's like, Lucy, he's not going to go onto the roof. He's not going to. And he's trying to make me feel better. It's all intended with love. and a little bit you're being ridiculous, which is the part we find most irritating.
That's going to trigger you, yeah.
So one day I'm in the toilet and I hear this, Janko, come here. Sure enough, he's gone onto the balcony, through the bars, and he's on the roof. A puppy is on the roof of the house. And John's gone out there with his slippery cowboy boots to get him. So now John's on the roof, like, with slippery boots. And I'm like, are you trying to kill... What? And he's laughing and I'm laughing because I'm like, feel vindicated, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm like... I'm not even going to say anything. And he's like, I was like, just tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me I'm not crazy for these thoughts. And then another time I was going on a trip and I was like, just make sure you slam the front door because the dogs. And he's like, Lucy, I can look after dogs. I had a dog before you came along type thing. And he's, getting irritated because he's like, just, you can go. Yeah. And I'm on the flight. And you have those Ring cameras that give you notifications. I know he's gone to a meeting because he's like, I'm going to a meeting, safe flight, blah, blah, blah. And the dogs are outside and the door's flung open and the dogs are outside. And I'm, when you're getting to that point where you're taking off, you haven't turned your phone off yet and you're still getting bings and the dogs are outside. I'm like, just so you know, the dogs are outside and I know you're not currently at the house. And he's like, are you kidding me? Fuck. And he's like, and so these things happen. So it kind of gives us both this. So we've learned from those things, okay, look, you just got to give each other, you can't compare, do not keep score, because it's like, it just ruins your relationship. Yeah. It just like, you can't.
Well, you stop being on the same team. If you're keeping score, it puts you on opposite teams and you can't raise kids on different teams. It's impossible.
And it's such a learning curve for your relationship as well, because he's going through what he's going through. I'm going through what I'm going through. Sometimes you just can't help each other with it. Yeah. But when you can help each other, you just give some patience and some lack of control. And that's hard. It can be hard to do when you're under pressure.
Well, so. You're not keeping score, but it sounds like it's 2-0 to me.
100%. I mean, I am obviously keeping score. And
she's just going to tell the stories where she gets a point.
I'm just trying to take the high road. Low roads only from now on.
Oh, no. Jeremy is the anxiety parent in our relationship. And man, anytime something happens that justifies his fear or worry or
it's like
anxiety,
a parade
is
of
infuriating to me.
Right.
Because then I'm like, now it's just going to get the driver's seat every time. It's going to get back up, put in the driver's seat. And
those are things you just accept. You just have those irritations with each other. And I saw a funny meme talking about the internet and trying to block it out. But it was like that song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship. It's like us when we were about to get divorced 3 hours ago. And now they've gone to bed and we love each other again. These are real things. It's like if you don't let them carry too much weight, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. But if you suddenly go, we don't like each other today, we're disagreeing on everything to do with childcare, this is very stressful, we're going to get divorced and this is going to be the worst. It's like all these crazy spirals of thoughts that everybody has. And then you're like, we are still who we are. We're just dealing with a brand new, very big scenario and life change.
Yeah. And you don't know what parent you're going to be. You don't know what kind of parent you're going to be until you are one. You can have intentions and ideas and hopes of what you're going to be like, and then your partner's on their own journey figuring that out as well.
Right. I think it's just a constant, I just the word reset comes to mind because I'm like, okay, this is morning, reset. This is, I don't know who I'm going to be today. I'm going to say I'm never going to be in a bad PMS mood ever again. Of course I'm going to be. In fact, it's scheduled next month at exactly Wednesday afternoon. And it's like, you just can't, I just try and say that to myself because give yourself forgiveness for what you did and said yesterday. Be hopeful for, that was my elbow, everyone, that I bumped.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Okay. I also hurt myself on a daily basis. I'm very clumsy and absent-minded.
Which makes sense why you fear falling down the stairs all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm very absent. I move too quickly. I'm impatient. So, I move around the house at lightning speed. And my postpartum story is crazy, by the way. We could go on to that at some point. But we'll be here all week. But, yeah.
What?
Go on.
I don't know what your
just your dark. Just
were.
Hit us with your top 10 darkest moments,
guys.
That's one of our questions.
Never would I have imagined. Is it a question? The postpartum thing, or
I don't know, but it should be actually.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely in there, but I think it depends.
I was just kidding about the 10 thing, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh no. This is. I had something so unexpected. So people talked about postpartum depression or whatever it is, baby blues, whatever you want to call it. I was like, well, I'm not doing that. You know, it's like, that sounds terrible. I'm going to pump myself with whatever I need to put. I had the weirdest. I heard someone say it was something called baby pinks. It was mania. I had
fun.
Exactly. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
John did not think it was fun.
I love that
thought
for
I was
you.
like,
Wow.
Thank you. Even my friend told me the other day, I miss that Lucy. She was so wild and fun. I was like, God, it was wild, wasn't it?
Unhinged.
Yes. And you know what? This touches on mental. I got preeclampsia after the birth in the hospital. So a normal blood pressure for me, which was 108, went to 179. It was like, you're going to have a stroke.
Wow.
And it was very scary. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks total. So it was very scary. I realized how vulnerable I was, how I thought I was exempt from certain things happening. Mm-hmm. Not from a point of arrogance, just it doesn't occur to you that this stuff's going to happen to you. And my kids are in the NICU because they were premature. So they're both in incubators. And I'm along the hall crying, well, where are my babies? And sometimes John said, you would just cry and say, I want to be with my babies. Mm-hmm. Just so very dramatic version of everything. And then cut to going home without the babies. They were still in the hospital. Couldn't go near their room, couldn't look at it. And I was like, now I feel like my body's been torn apart. Everything feels worse because where are the babies? Mm-hmm. Like, we've had a life change, but they're not here. This doesn't make... And they call the NICU a womb with a view, just kind of cute. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, if it's a womb with a view, shouldn't I be with them? Shouldn't I be holding their hand? They should still be in there. So what do I do with that information? And my sister said to me, they are in the best place they could possibly be. It's better for them to be, your situation is your situation. They are in the best place humanly possible. But then they got home, and then it went into this whole chapter of craziness. I was being wild as hell. I mean, I thought some of it was really enjoyable. I was like, enjoy the best version of me you're ever going to get. Like, back to like, you know, just being wild, spontaneous, like open. And I was like, I've smashed the glass ceiling. I'm literally like the most open-minded person.
Like, give me some examples.
I've evolved. I'm writing letters. I look back at these emails. I wrote emails to my friends in London, and they went on for, you know, the friends quote, 18 pages front and back. It was like, it was insanity. And I was making so much sense. And I was like, they're going to be so proud of me when they read this, because I have literally like changed.
You couldn't see out of it?
No.
Okay. I will not say that I have, that I like get like actual, but I have had like some maybe, you know, manic phases, and I have had enough of them to know that I want to write people stuff, but I know just don't. Sometimes I can send joy stuff, but like don't send the thing anyway.
Well done for having that outer voice of going.
Just for anybody who's listening who feels that way, but I'd like to hear more about the situation.
I had no voice of reason in my own head, and my friends, especially my friend in the UK, who is encouraging this because she loves it. She's like, we're talking till 4 a.m, like laughing and saying all this stuff. And she's like, oh my God, I love this person. Meanwhile, my husband is ready to commit me and like worried. Yeah. And this is where the joke stops being a joke, because it was very entertaining in some ways. Once I started to get some pushback, that turned into something deeply upsetting, because I was like to the therapist, okay, so he called a therapist. He's like, we need an intervention here.
And what are you saying in these emails, or what are you...
All the stuff that the kids have made me realize, or like, I'm the luckiest person on earth. I'm the most grateful person on earth. And I realize all my blocks, and I realize what held me back in life. And I realize how much I care about the people around me, and how I couldn't see things clearly before. And all this stuff.
Gotcha.
But the downside of it was I was being so intense. Imagine a person on so many drugs and coming in and thinking they're being so clear and like honest, but to a person who's not on drugs, that is the most intense. You know, you're being cornered. John was being cornered every second of the day and could do nothing about it.
Right.
And he's trying to be kind and he's trying to be compassionate, and he's being pummeled by my intensity. My mom is there. I made them both cry at some point. It was awful. And John has anxiety anyway, so it was through the roof. It was awful.
Sorry.
No, it's fun. It is really funny because one of my friends, Kate, was like, "Congratulations, you just sent the world's first 9-minute voice note." Like,
oh no, I've done that.
Doing things like that,
but not manic.
And she was like, "I'm not listening to this, but I do love you." Yeah. Like, I'm like, okay. I couldn't see it, so it gave me, when I started to realize, because I had my sister-in-law call me. And she's like, "Let me tell you what's going on here from John's point of view. I love you, and I want you. I love this. This is funny. This part is entertaining. But there's another side. This is what's happening also, because I was a person that has mental health issues, or that are very deep, that are personality disorders, or they're going through bipolar or schizophrenia or anything, and they don't know that they are. That is a prison that person is in, and that takes some serious intervention from people. Can you imagine? And those people say, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'm the best place that I've got." You're crazy because you're not seeing this clearly.
And you didn't experience what I did. You didn't just live through what I did.
Right.
And this is my truth now.
This is my truth. And you're just being, you're judging me. And I said, I'm in a glass box. I'm being inspected, and I'm not being understood, and I'm not being listened to, and I'm not being heard in my house. And that's what it felt like. So then you start to recluse. I got the nickname Lucie Silvas, so that was John's nickname for me, which is amazing. But I started to go inward. Then I wouldn't speak at all. So I had to tell my friends, do not call me under any circumstances. Don't get me on the phone, because you won't get me off. I can't stop talking. I'm compulsively talking and reacting, and I couldn't even stay still in my own skin. So I had to then I was alone, completely alone, couldn't talk to anyone. It was just the hardest time of my life. And then John would start avoiding me in the house. So I'd walk in a room and he'd walk out. And it was just it makes me want to cry thinking about it, because it was just so upsetting. I'm like, what's going to happen to us? Like, I don't know what's going on here. I just don't know what's going on. So I didn't, sorry, it's so crazy.
Don't be sorry at all.
The emotions that it brings up. So, because it's so, when I look back, I'm like, God, you wild bitch, what were you talking about? Because there were so many funny parts of it. But the downside of it, with every up that you feel, when people go through ups in their lives where they're being wild, there is a part to that is very dark, and that's what being a human is. It's like there are light and dark parts of all of us. So I experienced those both at the same time. And the people around me who do love me and do accept me were trying to help me and couldn't reach me. So it was very scary. And the therapist was like, "I'm not going to put you on medication just yet. I want to see what sleep does. You need to go to sleep."
Yeah. Yeah.
So however you can make that happen. I don't know if it's, because actually I couldn't breastfeed because the babies were in feeding tubes in the NICU. Right. I could pump only. So they're like, you have to go to sleep. This is all there is to it. So that rectified it. The sleep, weirdly. And it just, the hormones were leveling out. So I didn't go on medication. But I feel the deepest amount of empathy for any mental health issue. But this was something that I never saw coming, had never heard of. I'd only heard of depression. I was so happy with the babies. And the therapist said, "Do you feel resentment towards the children? Do you not want them to be here?" And I was like, no, they're the only people I want everyone else to go away. I want everything else to go away. I just want to hold them and be at peace. And so that was just, like you said, when you talked about temporary things, phases where you just, this is temporary. This is a phase. We're going to come out of this. And we did. So, yeah. Sorry, that was a really long story.
No, I love that story. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry it happened to you, that you had to go through it for us.
I do miss some of it. I miss the upsides. I miss the fun side because she was fun.
How long did that go on, did you say?
It went on a few weeks. So it wasn't crazy long, but it was long enough
for people to be concerned,
to have an impact on everybody and John and just.
And were you not sleeping at all? Like how did they?
No, I had a night nurse for some of it, which we were very lucky to have to help us. We knew it was twins. We knew they were in the NICU. And then when they came home, they needed the room that we had them in, their twins' room, had to be treated like a NICU. They couldn't have any, because premature babies have to learn to breathe, suck and swallow at the same time. Things that we take for granted. So we had to treat that room. We had to have nurses help us.
Right, really sterile.
I was going in there and chatting to the nurses, like till all hours of the morning. And they were like, you cannot do that. John was hearing me on the monitor just going, so where are you from?
Right.
Like, so where are your parents from?
They're here so you can sleep.
Shut up, Lucy, and go to sleep. Yeah.
Do you think it was like your, like almost like your brain and body's reaction to just the trauma of the childbirth, or also just the building anxiety of like, being an anxious person anyways, and that control and like being like, I'm going to be on top of, I guess, on top of all this. Like, I'm not going to let postpartum get to me. I'm not going to, so you kind of go the self-control on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. I didn't realize control came from anxiety in my life, because I never had what I called anxiety before, but control must come from that, because you are so controlled with yourself. My friends have always said to me, like, how do you not have a drink? Like, how do you control yourself from doing this, this, and this? How do you control what you're going to say? I can see you sitting there holding back. And I'm like, it's fear. It's fear of what the reaction will be. It's fear of what the person will do. They'll leave, or they'll whatever. So, but with kids, I think it was a physical thing of the C-section, the trauma that does to your body. I mean, the nurses were laughing at me. There was always an element of comedy to all this scary stuff that was happening. They kept saying, she keeps saying she thinks she's going to die, and can you not let her die because she's not ready to go yet, and all this kind of stuff. And then I said to my surgeon, did you stuff me with arts and crafts? Did you put my organs back? Because it sure feels like I'm stuffed with foam at this point, because everything feels very strange. Like, I can't possibly survive this. You just cut me open, took babies out, and what did you do with everything in that process? Yeah. I think the postpartum trauma came from a serious surgery and preeclampsia and magnesium treatment, which you do for either slowing down contractions or preeclampsia to keep it at bay, because it's obviously dangerous, and you're in a bed for 24 hours not eating or drinking.
And you're not with your babies for
very traumatic.
Too long.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it teaches you a lot about what you can withstand, what people go through, what mothers go through. I never saw it before, because how could I possibly know? I've always thought it was amazing. I've looked at all my friends, you guys. I've looked at all my friends have babies, marveling at it, being inspired by it, going, look what they're doing. Look what they're navigating. But the actual moment, no one realizes. They're like, oh, they'll give birth to a baby. This is amazing. There's no way you can possibly understand that process. Some people's babies just shoot out in an hour sometimes, but it's not like being pregnant prepares you for a baby. No. It's like overnight change. So I feel so much compassion for parents and what they go through and whatever scenario they go through, because it's big and it's largely not talked about still. The things and unstudied, and hormones in general, I don't think they're studied enough for women, because it is life-changing.
They're not.
Every step of the way.
No, I just learned, I mean, this is just one example, but of that exact thing, that they're not researched enough, and we don't put enough effort towards that. And I'm not, but disclaim by saying I'm not a cancer treatment, but I don't know anything about it really, other than, being I'm not a cancer patient, but I do have the BRCA gene, the breast cancer gene I found in like the last year. And I've learned that, because that also means that you have a super high risk of having ovarian cancer. And I didn't know that there's like no there's a marker test, a blood test, and then you can get like, ultrasounds, but that's still super inaccurate. And you really just have to be like listening to your body, and it's not a surefire thing. And I'm like, and so they're like, if you just want to take it out, great. Like that makes a lot, that's probably the safest bet.
Sure.
That being that there's not some better way to look at it. And maybe I don't get it. And maybe somebody who's like an what do you call them? Radiation tech or whatever, radiologist will think, well, there's a lot more to it than that. And I know that there is, but it just seems
how do
like...
you know unless you're going through it? Exactly. It's so many variables, like you said, with illness or cancer. It's just like there's so many ways to treat it or look at it, or that I have not experienced. So
because it just seems... I don't know. I shouldn't say that. It just seems... I will say this. It just seems like there's a lot of ways to detect a lot of kinds of cancer, but not really ovarian cancer. And so I'm just saying that seems...
There are unstudied things. Yeah.
There is to do with women, especially hormone stuff. Yeah. And all the stuff like you have to go to kind of a strange doctor when you're going through menopause to get the hormones that will make you feel better. And
it never ends. It's a constant. You're being pummeled by something where it comes to hormones. Men too. Their hormones react, and they're going through their own journey with hormones. But it is, I wish we knew more about it. It's like the brain. It's just such a complicated... There's so much they don't know about it. But it's like I've always been affected since I was a young kid with hormones, like very sensitive to hormonal changes, the slightest thing. And it is a whole mood shift. And only the people closest to me see it. So, it's hard to deal with. It's like you have to get ahead of it. And one thing to speak to that is when I think about being a kid and growing up and wishing I'd learned something specific, it was all about your nervous system. But learning how to, because at the end of the day, you know deep down instinctively what's going on if you have the connection to it. And if you don't have the connection to it, it's buried deep in there, the instinctive response to what you are feeling in your body. I wish I had been taught that. And I think it's amazing that there's some organizations that go around schools teaching them about the nervous system and about emotional response, because as a kid, your body will react in a certain way because of the way you're feeling. And we don't know that because we're not taught that. So I never was. So I've been through so many scenarios being in situations that were terrible and my body was telling me so. Yeah. And illness too. So you know it. You know when your time of the month's coming, even if you hadn't kept track of it. You know when something's wrong. You know when something's not right. You just know. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking the other day that like listen to your gut. People say that a lot. Yeah. And maybe that's what they meant, but I didn't.
Maybe
that wasn't
because
my takeaway.
I always thought it did mean that. I always thought it was like there's a gut instinct that something's going on with you. And look at people that have diagnoses that they have to chase for years because no doctor out there is telling them what it is, but they know. They're like, I know that there's an issue here. And not to spend my life chasing something, I think people... I don't know. It's so complicated. God, everything's so complicated, isn't it? Yeah.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Joy.
Do you have trouble meal planning? Is that a struggle for you?
What?
What's that?
Huh? I do have this. Yeah, no. Yes, I do have that. I have that issue.
Me too, especially there's like always a one night where we do Blue Apron, but there's always a couple nights a week where we don't have a meal planned. And it's usually a night where we're all trying to eat something together that is affordable and good quality food. And what's a really great solution for that we have for all of you listeners out there?
What?
Is Mr. Aaron's Goods.
Oh, yeah.
And we have an update about Mr. Aaron's, which is that instead of just walking in and picking up your food or getting it delivered, you can actually go in and dine there now. They have new hours. They're open Tuesday through Sunday. You can have fresh pasta, sauces, bagels, schmears, all the specialty goods. They're located at TKO in East Nashville. And they're open 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
weekdays, and then on the weekends, 9 a.m. to noon, or until they sell out. You can also still order online, and if you do that, you can use code MOMCULT for 20% off your entire order. Yeah, they're the best people.
Yeah, they're amazing. Give them your money, and they will give you your sustenance. Were you relieved or Did you grieve not being able to breastfeed? Was that something you had pictured and really wanted to do? Or were you kind of like, all right, well, maybe this will simplify some
I worried
other parts
about
of my day.
worrying about it as little as I did. I worried that I was being a bad mom or something, because they were in the NICU on the feeding tubes and I was pumping, but I was so sick that I wasn't getting very much and I couldn't produce enough for 2.
Yeah.
And because neither of my sisters started to breastfeed but had a lot of issues with it, and a lot of the things they were worried about were debunked as the kids got older with regards to attachment or health. I mean, and even one of the night nurses, which was so helpful, saying, I breastfed my girl for 2 years. She's constantly sick. She was constantly getting sick. And because I was so worried, I was like, and my twins have had so many colds already in the short time they've been alive. So I worry about it. And there was an element of guilt. Like, did I not do the best thing when I could have tried to pump more? Like, did I not do it right? All that
or
stuff.
try hard enough.
Guilt is such a huge headline in everything that we experience as moms. But I didn't give myself a hard time about it because I felt like I was surrounded by people that made me feel at ease.
That's already having like sisters that have
weren't
done through
able.
that and have already, that's
For sure.
a huge help.
Yeah,
sure.
I think Maybelle breastfed for a couple of minutes twice, and it was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful. It hurt, but I found it so beautiful. I was like, "This is amazing! Like, how is this even happening?" It was a beautiful thing. It makes me feel warm thinking about it.
It is cool getting to see your boobs like perform the function that they do.
Yes,
like,
it's incredible.
Like, you don't get to see them that way unless you're breastfeeding whenever you get to do it.
Oh, it's such a beautiful thing. I think, and obviously I envy that. I think I wish I could have had that, but it's not been central to everything. Yeah.
What do you do like for yourself now whenever you need a break? What
Come and
keeps
do
you afloat?
podcasts? I love baths. I take baths a lot. I'm obsessed with a bath. Probably too many baths, too many hot baths. But I just love being in the bath. I'll just lie there and I love pampering. I love being pampered. I'm such a girly girl.
You have like the candles and the salts and the...
I have salts and some salts. Don't bring a book because I've dropped a book in the very few books I've read in my life, to be honest. But a bubble bath, and I like candles and just having time to just close my eyes, and a bath really helps me. That is a pleasure in life. That's a luxury in life that I think is so nice to have. So I love doing that. I love being outside. I just love just sitting there and just looking at nature. I just find as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate it a lot more and just feel better immediately when I go outside. Yeah. So just alone time. I like being alone. And one thing that's helped me as a human being is all the insecurities you go through when it comes to other people or the world, from no fault of theirs, just your own brain in your interactions with them. Then I'm by myself. I'm quite all right with myself. I have my shortcomings and my criticisms, and no one's harder on me than I am at times. But generally, I feel at peace, and I think that's very fortunate. So I'm sitting there going, well, I'm alone. This is good. I need this. So, because I'm at peace.
Have you kind of gotten... creatively speaking, singer-songwriter speaking, has it been, do you feel like becoming a mom has kind of opened a new door to a voice for that? Or do you feel like you feel closed off from it? Did you feel like you took a break or lost it for a little bit at all?
Oh yeah. It felt like it slammed the door hard on music for a sec, to the point where I had to perform maybe at 7 months after they were born. And I was like, I feel like I've been hired to take the place of someone, of the old Lucy that can't do, like, why am I even doing this? I can't sing, I can't perform. And I had to be told, you have children, but you are who you are. And that's been really hard for me to get my head around. And when music has been such a huge, it's been your whole identity, and singing is what you do. It's like, that's who you are. But I did a gig recently in Spain where I was so surprised by people. At that time, I used to tour in Europe a lot, so the people knew the songs, and it was surprising to me. But I really enjoyed it. And I think what it's come to is it doesn't have to mean what it used to mean. I really enjoyed it, and it was wonderful. And I'm very grateful for the career I've had and people that, you know, I just can't always do. The people that have like my music or my songwriting, I can't do what they want me to do because it doesn't hold the same thing. I love writing songs when it feels natural for me. I'm just trying to get back into the swing of doing it as a job.
Yeah.
But that's what's hard about creativity, to connecting it to being paid or being a job is very strange. It can either ruin it, but then you need it to survive. It's such a complicated issue. We're very lucky to do it, but then it's supposed to come from a natural place, but all the natural parts of it get stripped away the more you do it.
How do I be authentic on a deadline?
Yeah, exactly. And I find that I feel so deeply about things now. I'm just crying at everything, and I feel things so deep that I can't even function at times. So I don't even know how to put that in a song at times. There's too many thoughts flowing around in my head. I'm finding them hard to harness. Yeah. So a few things are coming out that I'm thinking way too much about it at the moment. So I'm hoping to reach a point with my songwriting where it just flows naturally again. And if it doesn't, that's just what happens. You know, I've got all the songs I'm proud of in the past. It's changed for sure.
You and John put out, it's a kid's song, right?
We did, yes, which was just part of a project that was fun to do and fun to be part of. It was nice to just have the parents sing on something together. It's mainly John singing and I'm just singing harmonies, but it was sweet. It was really sweet to do, and it's such a lovely record to do for kids. Nice. They did such a good job. Yeah.
I just wondered if that was like but
it wasn't a goal or anything. It was just something we fell into. So yeah,
we're going to do a quick pop culture corner about, Succession. You said Succession. God. Okay,
the best show ever.
Do you know that's a weird thing about being a mom is like I'll love a show so much. Like I think some of the best TV has come out since he was born, but just bandwidth wise, I won't finish. So I haven't watched the last season of Succession, but I'm obsessed with it.
Oh, you get ready. Hold on tight. It is so incredible. I mean, I have a few shows that I feel that way about, Breaking Bad and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Some people have been told, they're like, God, they're so awful to each other. It's like, that just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, I know, but I'm looking at the writing. The writing is so incredible. It's just so, when shows dot every T, no, it's fine. Dot every I and cross every T. I'm like, you guys have made these character arcs so incredible. They have not missed a beat. And I look at the creators of the show, and the creators also, I think, developed Peep Show, this British show that I love.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Just so funny. And the element of comedy to the writing, and how invested you are with all the characters, and how many of them have these villainous personalities but have this redeeming feature that you try and hold on to but can't. I just find it fascinating. It's a world that is so far removed from anything I would ever, the amount of wealth and, detachment from reality for these people is fascinating. And I just think that it's just one of the best shows ever. I'm obsessed with it.
Do you need it?
No, it's okay. It's my dad calling about
I thought it was,
that my parents just left and they're in Colorado now on their route back to New Zealand, slowly but surely, but it's fine.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love all that about it, and I have a couple of other like sick obsessions that it touches on. I don't know if they're sick, but like dynastic families, I love. Just it doesn't matter what scenario that is, if they're wealthy or they're not. Like all of that, I love it so much, and I love the dynamics that not love, but I'm familiar with watching families interact in that way, and what that creates between the kids and at that level, what that can look like, and how much parents can miss when they have how much parents in that position can miss.
Yeah.
Just everything about it.
The dysfunction of everything.
Yeah. Totally.
Because also I feel like everyone watches something for a different reason. Sometimes it's to switch off from your own world completely. Yeah. It's something so wildly different to what we experience that it makes us feel, just removed or better, or say, oh, thank God we haven't got the same problems as that, because that's crazy. Like or it's even when, it's the anti-hero, like Walt in Breaking Bad, you can't help but root for them because maybe a part of you wants to be a bit more strong or ruthless in scenarios you've been walked over. Right. There's always a reason why you're connecting to something. My dad, will not watch it. He's like, they're awful to each other. They're awful, awful people. It makes me feel bad about humanity. I'm like, totally get that, but it's not real. And he goes, yes, but there are people like that in the world. I went, but we don't have to hang out with them because, but they are, part of our world that we live in, and they make decisions that affect our lives. And
that's true. Yeah.
If you think deeply about it, but I just look at it from a point of view of the writing and the creativity and the art of it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
a beautiful edge of it.
Amazed by it.
Yeah, I also love a villain, to be a fan of a villain. I loved. I mean and I don't mean what I'm saying, but the worst person in a show, like a House of Cards.
Oh yeah. The Kevin Spaceys of,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, not in regular life.
No,
but
on and off screen.
Well, I'm not a fan of what he was in regular life, but all that, and I can't think of it. Well, I mean, yeah, I love that.
Well, I think to me, I can only speak for myself, but it's on times when they have this ability to walk through the hallway of a building and they're putting out fires left, right, and center, and then going home or hitting different subjects that are wildly important and impactful on either the whole of humanity or what 50 people are going to be impacted by. And I just get on with it. And I'm going to lunch now, and then I'm going to the next thing. And it's the removal of emotion to each situation that I envy, because I cannot do that. Every single moment in my life affects me and informs the next. So it's how are they doing this? So there's an envy when that person could be clearly a sociopath, which I don't want to be, but there's an envy of how they manage to detach from the emotion of it.
I guess that's part of what I love about it too, but I like to think that I could do that.
No, totally. There's that part in all of us, and that part of all of us that wants to just be honest about what we think and just go tell someone to go fuck yourself, or literally just come in
that part. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the part. It's the part of do you know what? What I really want to say is this. And that's that character. That's just, it's not them going, oh God, am I a bad person? Would I be a villain like that? Of course you wouldn't do the things that they would do. But there is, especially for people pleasers or people that kind of go inward when it's a confrontational situation. They want to just go, do you know what? You're being an asshole. Get out of my face. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And not be affected by it. Sometimes you just want to say that and be like, I'm not dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very empowering to see people do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I won't keep you anymore because I feel like I'm going to talk to you for 5 minutes after this too, if you will.
Yes, of course.
You can cut that out. Oh, Kardashians. I knew there was other stuff.
Oh God. That's the other thing. It's just a removal. It's just escapism. Yeah. The Kardashians. And also, it's just look at her butt. Look at her waist.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell's going on here?
Do you watch it from the beginning?
I think I've watched it. I've dipped in and out for years of just and then, it's funny because I don't really have any judgment. What I find actually is one of the things that's appealing to me, and this is just my personality, it seems almost shameless at times, or it seems like there's such a lack of worry about being judged, and actually those people probably are worried about being judged, but I would never do that from fear of judgment. So yeah, I envy that side too. I envy being able to put yourself, what kind of person do you have to be to put yourself out there like that? Something I could never and would never do.
You know what? Actually, because I love, I started watching that, I don't know, a couple of years before I had Parker, and watched the whole thing, all night, whatever it is, 19 seasons, over the course of whatever time. And it actually is, for me, a real similar thing to Succession. And there's other reality shows like the show Flipping Out, if you're familiar. Anybody who has a ruthless, but not necessarily ruthless, but sometimes ruthless focus on success or working hard or business. Yeah. And I think the Kardashians are like that. And I think that that's the thing. I think I've heard them say things that they care so much about what other people think, at some points, maybe not now, who knows, whatever. I don't need to speak to their personal feelings necessarily, but definitely they all share a drive for success, Chris, how she runs her family as a business and all that. I just have a lot of respect for it, but for better or worse, I love
you
that.
either love it or you hate it. Everyone has a different take on it. Do I love, what the influence is doing to girls, teenage girls with what you look like? It's not good. It can't be good. It's not good. But there's also the thing of somewhat being in a bubble of no one's outside of that bubble is going to tell you what's happening outside of that bubble and they don't need to hear about. And when they look at the internet, they're going to see it, and you can block out the negativity. So you're always going to stay in your bubble of whatever that is, privilege, whatever. So to me, I look at it as entertaining, which for them I think is kind of sad because that's real lives on display, whatever they're choosing to show. But for me, it's entertainment, which is a weird thing. It's like looking at people's actual lives and having babies and relationships and divorces, and it's entertainment, which is something they have chosen. And yet I just know I couldn't do it. So it's not really judgment on them. I'm looking at it as escapism, just to watch some shit for a while,
right?
And liking the houses and the cars and going, wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
But it's a crazy concept. That's why reality TV is so strange.
Yeah.
It's not reality. It's I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, honey. That was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Lucie, and sharing your story with us. I don't think we've had anybody yet talk about what your postpartum experience was, so it's always really cool when we get like a nugget of something that is really specific that could speak to somebody else.
Well, thank you, and thanks for listening. Thanks for being interested in it because I don't talk about it much to people. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're honored you shared it with us.
Thank you for having me so much.
Yeah. You can follow Lucie at Lucie Silvas.
Yeah, LucieSilvas.com. I think Instagram is like a mixture of things.
Got it.
Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's dogs.
Yeah. The best stuff. Yeah. And you can follow us at Momcult Podcast, and you can listen at themomcult.com. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.